So Ohio State's headed to the national championship game. 28-14, they knock off Texas in the Cotton Bowl, and now they're headed to Atlanta to face Marcus Freeman and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. As we always do, it's time to grade quarterback Will Howard. 24 of 33 for 289 yards, a touchdown and an interception, plus 4 yards on the ground. He got sacked a couple of times, but a key 16-yard gain on a fourth down that essentially scored the winning touchdown for Ohio State. Stefan, what's your grade for QB1?
Yeah, I give him an A-. I thought he had a few plays that were kind of head-scratching. You know, he had that interception that I don't think was a great read or a great throw on that play. But as the bar has kind of been throughout this year for him, you know, after the Penn State game, that could have been a game where we were critical about Will, and Andrew was critical about Will. And Stephen, the thing you and I kind of said at that point was, yes, he made a few of those plays that were really head-scratching, but he did enough in key situations to win the game. Win the game on the road against a top-5 team. I thought at the end of the game here, his experience really showed up. I think he made the plays that needed to be made for Ohio State to win this game. There was not ever really a point where you could point to this game and say the reason they're losing is because of him. It never felt that way. I thought the fourth down play call, the QB run, I caught up with Chip Kelly right as the trophy presentation was going on, and he said that was the design, right? It wasn't like it wasn't a Will Howard, read, make a decision. Like, that's what they told him to do. They like the idea of having Travion kind of lead there. That's the kind of stuff that Ohio State has in their back pocket with a guy like Will, the mobility that he has. So they used him in a lot of different ways, and you kind of saw his full skill set on display in this game. So I give him an A-. I thought everything Ohio State needed him to do, he did, especially in the critical situations.
Andrew, are you going to follow suit with an A-?
No, I'm going to give him a B+. I thought that he was pretty good. We noted in the press box, I think in the first half, he was playing fire a little bit. There were a couple throws where you kind of, were a little nervous. Like there was that throw to G over the middle of the field, which, I mean, if G. Scott doesn't make a great play, that could have very easily been a pick. The throw over the linebacker's head, I think it was on that first drive. That was just a good throw. The interception, I thought, was just a really, really poor read and a really, really poor throw. You noted it. He stared down his receiver, and he threw it right to him. But like Stefan said, he made the plays that he had to make. And I think he quickly realized, or at least realized as the game wore on, those deep shots to Jeremiah are not going to be there, because I thought what Texas did was actually pretty smart. What they did was, they would, either jam Jeremiah at the line, or they'd have one corner on him and the safety would shade to the other side of the field. And then right before the snap, that safety would immediately jump over to Jeremiah's side. And they were trying to bait Will Howard into throwing that go ball to Jeremiah. I think they only went deep to Jeremiah once, and I think it was on that side of the field. And we looked at it and went, Jeremiah probably should have came up with that. So I thought Will Howard did a good job in taking what he had to get. So, yeah, there were some, maybe some errors there, but he, I think, realized, and he deserves a lot of credit for kind of understanding it's not going to look sexy. It's not going to look great. But sometimes you got to throw a 5-yard check down. And sometimes you got to hit a swing pass out of the backfield. And sometimes that's going to have to be the way that you move the football, because Texas did a very good job defensively. I think we need to give them a lot of credit, because they took away what Ohio State wanted to do. Ohio State only scored 21 points offensively after just dominating Oregon and Tennessee. So Texas played really well. Will Howard understood what he had to do. He took what was given to him, and he gets a B+ for that, because there were some errors that I think keep him from an A, but man, when you talk about understanding the game flow, he did that tonight.
So we're going to do another video about Jeremiah Smith and essentially Texas saying anybody's allowed to beat us but Jeremiah Smith, because I think that's interesting given who they're going to play next. I'm going to give Will Howard an A, because it was a bad interception, and yeah, he was playing with fire in the first half, but this is the playoff. You have to play with fire, and you have to control the fire, or you're going to get burned and lose. But also, so was the quarterback on the other end. He was playing against a very talented quarterback. I think Quinn Ewers had some moments where he's such a frustrating quarterback. He'll have moments where it's like, man, I see every reason for why they thought he was a perfectly ready recruit. And then he'll have other moments where you're like, Quinn, what are you doing? Well, that's how we described Will Howard at times this year. So that's kind of the game. He put the ball in harm's way one time, but other than that, yes, if G. Scott doesn't make a play, it's bad. But that's the point. These receivers, these tight ends, these weapons, that's the point, is that I do have these weapons, so I can make that throw. I can make that decision. I can put it helmet or higher for Jeremiah Smith, and we all go, Jeremiah should have caught that, even though we would not have that standard for literally any other player in college football right now. That's kind of the point. I'm giving Will Howard an A because the reasons the offense struggled were not his fault. The play calling was getting in its own head way again at times, and not just doing the very simple thing of we have a 6'5", 235-pound quarterback who can run. We need this yard. Let's have him get the yard. When they finally did that, Stefan, 16-yard game where he's hilariously stumbling over himself at the end there. But once the play calling got better, Will Howard kind of got better as well.
I think two of the more head-scratching plays in this game were the pitches, outside runs that we saw Ohio State do on a 3rd and short, and we saw Texas do at the goal line, which frankly, the Jack Sawyer play is amazing. It's going to be the play that's remembered. If Ohio State doesn't get a stop on that play, then that Jack Sawyer play never happens, right? I mean, Texas is on the goal line looking to score. I will say, I'm going to echo what you said about some of the throws, the playing with fire element. I actually, there's not a lot of video evidence that's going to back up what I say here.
Buckeye talk.
I don't think the interception is as bad as it looked. What he saw was he thought he could drop a dime over that linebacker, and before the I don't know if it was a corner or safety that was behind Jeremiah, he thought he could drop that in the bucket to Jeremiah. The linebacker made a play. He got up there and closed that gap quick and got the interception. That's okay because he's dropped those dimes. He's thread the needle on a lot of those passes. So, like, when we say he's playing with fire, it's because he's making really accurate throws, which you have to do when you're playing against a defense of this caliber. I think that's the best defense in the country that they just faced. When you're playing a team like that, you have to drop the ball into tight windows. He did that. So, when you watch the replay, you're like, man, that was almost picked off. Well, it wasn't picked off. You know why? Because he made the throw in a spot where only his receiver was going to make the play.
So maybe it's not a bad decision, just bad execution. Yeah. And that's a fair point. I think that's a fair point to be made.
There's good guys on the other side of this, so they make a play.
That's true. This is the best passing defense in the country. At least Ohio State, 28-14, moves on. Will Howard is one game away from having something in common with Cardell Jones and Craig Krenzel. Steven, Andrew, Stefan, see you guys in Atlanta.